clicker on the podium. Let's see how this thing works. All right, we are good to go. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Welcome, welcome. This is how to design your own game. You're going to be the star of this. You're going to be making a game when you're done with this, right? We're all here. We got the games that we want to make. Great. So, who am I? I'm Ben Kanelos. I have been doing tabletop game design for over a decade, working freelance with a bunch of different companies. My current gig right now is I'm lead designer at RustBit. COVID kind of shut down all the tabletop stuff, so I transitioned over to video games, and so we're an actor-based company, and we're working on the Grip of Madness here, aiming for an October next year launch of the game. So I've got stuff out there. I'm talking from a place of having done some of this before, so let's get rolling here, right? Presentation should take about 20-25 minutes. That's how much it timed out at, and we'll take questions at the end if that's all right. So, before we start doing the game design talk, I'm going to warn you about doing game design. A lot of people come out and they're like, hey, game design, everything's going to be hunky-dory, get excited for it, get hyped. I think you should go into game design with your eyes open about what things doing game design will change for you. First of all, when you start designing games, you'll never play games the same way again. When you boot up a game or pull out a tabletop game or play something, your relationship with that game is going to be different. You're going to have a critical eye about games. When you play the games, you're going to be asking yourself, why did the designer make this decision? Am I having fun at this point, or am I disengaged? Are my friends having fun at this point? Like, you're going to start picking apart games because you're going to be thinking about your game and the things that you want to put into your game, so your relationship with games will change. I think it's a great way to have a deeper, more meaningful relationship with games, the same way like if you have movie critics and you read movie criticism, it'll change the way you view movies. But just be aware that by working on a game, you will play games differently. Second, it's long, hard work. Those board games, from my first prototype to that being a finished product that's available for people to buy, generally 3 to 5 years of work. You do plenty of designing, play testing, then you have to pitch to publishers, and the publishers are going to run it through their development program, and then they're going to get art and proofing and all that stuff. It's a lot of work that goes into something that someone will play for maybe an hour. The video game company, the Grip of Madness, we worked for a year before we had a vertical slice demo that you'll see down in the computer lab. So that's a year's worth of work to get that. Most development cycles for video games is 2 to 3 years. So we're talking 2 to 3 years of work just to get a video game out. So be aware, like if you're going to take something all the way across the finish line as a game, it's going to take some time, it's going to take some work. And your chance of becoming the next Among Us, the next Fall Guys, or something that everyone recognizes, is very small. There's over 5,000 board games that get published every year. There's over 10,000 games on Steam alone that come out every year. Now I know a lot of that's shovelware and asset flips and stuff like that, but just be aware that it's a big, wildly crowded market, and it takes a lot of work, a lot of luck to sort of break out and become one of those big hits. But hey, game design's fun. So let's get to talking about game design. Let's get to the fun part, right? First of all, like I said, you need to start playing your games differently. You're going to need to develop a critical eye towards the games that you're playing. And the best way to do that is to eat your vegetables. What do I mean by eat your vegetables? I mean, you can't just eat sugar and sweets all the time. I really, really like first-person shooters. But I play RPGs, I play tactics games, I play free-to-play stuff that's on my phone. You have to play a bunch of stuff that you don't normally play, because every game that's out there has game mechanics that you can learn from. Every game that's out there has stuff that you can take from their design and apply it to your own. So you basically have to start broadening your horizons and eating a bunch of different games. On top of that, you can't only play good games. You have to play some bad games. You have to play some mediocre games. You can learn a lot from a good game. You can also learn just as much from playing a game that you don't like a lot. Ask yourself when you're playing a game that's bad, what makes this game bad? What don't I like about it? Why don't I think this game is successful? Like, what could I do differently if this was my game to make it a better experience? By asking those questions, you can see what you have in your game to make sure that you're not falling into the same pitfalls that you think other bad games have out there. Additionally, that sounds like a lot of playing games. You don't have to beat the game. You don't need to roll credits. If I'm playing a game and I get an hour or two in and I think I basically know what this game is going to be doing for the rest of it, I'm not going to play another 40 hours of that game. I've learned what I can from that game, and I don't need to like see the credits or see the end cutscenes in order to finish learning the game. So you don't need to finish a game to learn from it. So for that, game demos, board game cafes are your friends. You're going to need to play a lot of different games. Games are expensive. It's an expensive hobby, I know that. So try and find as much free or cheap or just short experiences as you can that are out there to sort of broaden your horizons of number of games. So, you're playing games differently, you're thinking about your game and you want to get started, start small. If there's one thing I tell you today that you take home, don't be the one who falls for the trap for trying to build your magnum opus as your first game. You have big dreams and big things that you want to put out there, but the number of designers I see that say, like, I've got this game, I've got to put everything into it, everything that I love, and they work on it for 2, 3 years, it's not getting anywhere, it's too big, they're never going to finish it, it's no fun, and then they burn out. I don't want that to be you. I want you to have a great time building games and enjoying yourself. So start small. How small should the game be? Look at game jams. Those are games that people put together in 24 hours. Now I know it's like a full 24 hours, they didn't sleep and they went crazy and they crunched the whole time, but that shows you about how much an experienced dev can do in about 24 hours. So aim for something that small. Get your feet wet. Learn the systems, learn the mechanics, learn the language if you're programming it. Just get it small and manageable, because it will take you longer than you think. You will run into things that will make the game run longer in development time. Plus, you can always add to a small project. If you finish a nice small project, you can then add more stuff in. And it's important to learn how to finish work. If you're thinking about an easy way to get into it, consider doing a mod. There's plenty of ways to do mods for games. That way you're not building an entire game, you're building your thing for a game. And then you can see how your game reacts to that. If you're doing tabletop game design like I do, consider making an expansion. You can put expansions up on Board Game Geek, which is sort of this big repository for board gaming, and people will download and play the expansion. You can't make money off of it, but you'll get a lot of experience of taking a project from start to finish and seeing how people react to it. So please start small, don't make your biggest thing first, because you'll always have a chance to learn and do that later. The next big key is to play your games as early as possible with other people. A game doesn't need to be finished to be playable. This here is a prototype of a game that I was working on. It doesn't look really great, right? It's just cards with letters on it, some cubes thrown in a box. Why? Because I don't need to spend another 20 hours of doing art and layout, because when I took this game to a playtest event, it was really bad. It didn't work. Everything that I thought was going to be great in my head didn't work when I took it to the table to play with players. And if I had put another 20 hours of work into that prototype, it would have been 20 hours I wasted. So skip the art, focus on the core loop. What is a core loop? It's sort of like the central part of the game that your players are going to interact with the most. So in the Grip of Madness, our core loop is find the monster, fight the monster, close the tear. Find the monster, fight the monster, close the tear. And then in that, you're trying to use clues and do this. you got to hone that, make sure that part's fun, and focus on doing that. You're going to be doing a lot of work on your game. I suggest writing a statement of intent when you get to the start of it. What is a statement of intent? It's, what do I want this game to be? Blood Feud is a mega game in a box. That's the idea. I said I love mega games. I'm going to try and make a mega game that fits into a box that doesn't need a moderator. So that's what that statement of intent is. Red Scare is a social deduction game with 3D classes. That's all my statement of intent is. I'm telling myself, this is what I'm doing with this game. Your statement of intent is going to be important when you get to this next step, which is iteration. You're going to take your game out and you're going to be playing your game, and things aren't going to work, and you're going to need to change things. If you have a statement of intent, you can refer back to it. It's very important. So, before we get to the iteration, we have a very important thing. You're going to be playing your game with lots of other people. This is a skill that takes time to develop. It's taking feedback. You see how much fun these people are having? Look how much fun they're having. This is my game. This is the 3 laws of robotics. They're having a great time. You know why they're having a great time? Because this is a staged photo shoot. This is a photo shoot for promotional material for the game. So they look like they're having a great time. I'll tell you, the first time I pulled this game out, that is not the reactions I got. Did not go over that well. People didn't love it. I got to that point, but it takes work. So remember, when you're sitting down with other players, respect their time. They are there, and they are helping you out by playing your game. And if they have opinions and things that they want to say, they're not wrong. So don't argue with them. People will have feelings. They may not be the things that you want to have, the feelings that they have, or the thoughts that they have. But don't fight with them, because they are doing a great service to you. Playtesters are like gold in this industry. We need as many playtesters as possible. If you're looking to do game design, start coming out to playtest events. All the game designers there are like, oh, thank you so much for coming and playing our games. We need you so badly. And you'll make contacts and find people to be friends with. I record all my feedback. I just put out my phone. I start a recorder app. And the reason for that is when I'm there in the moment, I'm very heightened. Like, I know how I wanted the game to go, and I'm sort of reacting to it now. And you're going to forget things, and you're going to need to come back to that when you're calmer and you've had some time and distance from what you were doing. A lot of people, when they're doing their feedback, they'll say, like, what do you like about this game? What didn't you like about this game? You'll get a lot of surface level answers from players. They're like, oh, the guns feel good. Well, guns feel good is not great feedback for you as a game designer. You need to know, well, why does this gun feel good? Did it feel like it was doing enough damage? Did you like the reload speed? Did it feel like it was a realistic weapon? Like, what about that statement did they like? So try to always, when you're talking to your players, whether you're not arguing with them, if someone says the gun feels bad, you say, no, the gun is great. You don't get it. No, you say, why doesn't the gun feel bad? And why does the gun feel bad? And what about it? And they'll say, and hopefully they'll say something that's helpful for, like, I didn't feel like I was doing enough damage. It was something that was happening in the Grip of Madness early on. You know what our fix was? We added blood effects to the enemies. We didn't change any of the numbers. We just put like a register in so when people could tell when they were hitting the enemies. Totally changed the game. You know what people were saying? They were offering a solution. They said, this gun needs to do more damage. But the actual problem was they didn't feel like the gun was doing damage. And all we had to do was change something visually. So when you're talking to your players and you're play testing, don't look for solutions that are there. Remember, you're play testing to try and find the problems that are in your game, what works and what doesn't work in your game. If you're talking to your play testers, they will get super excited and start telling you things that you should add to the game or change about the game. Remember, you're always going to try and follow those comments back to the reason they have that opinion. What are they trying to change about the game, and why do they feel that way is more important than a possible thing that you can do in your game themselves. So, you've done your play testing, you've got your scope small, we're back to iteration. So, Game design is iterative. You're going to make something, and then you're going to put it in front of players, and then you're going to try and find the parts that don't work, and then you're going to try and get rid of those parts that don't work and put something that does work. You iterate, you pull it out again, you put it in front of players again, hopefully a different group of players, and they'll tell you how you feel about it. You pull something out, you put stuff in until you get done with it. My games, those board games, probably 15 or 16 separate prototypes before it's done to even start talking to a publisher. The Grip of Madness, we threw out some pretty big systems. It takes, takes time and work and energy. So here's the thing. Don't be afraid to pull stuff out of the game that you really like. You have to kill your darlings. You will love parts about this game, and if players aren't reacting to it, you need to be strong enough to pull that out of the game. You don't have to throw it away into the trash. You can make another game at some point later on because you scope small to start another project with the part that you love. But you have to figure out what parts don't work and put stuff in. You can get really lost. Always refer back to your statement of intent or your saved feedback, because you did both those things. You have a statement of intent, you saved some feedback in order to sort of direct yourself when you're iterating. And here's the big key. I can't stress this enough. Always consider what you can cut out of the game before considering what you can add to the game. If you only add, you end up with a big unwieldy mess. You end up with too much stuff. It's too big, there's too many systems, it's too complicated for your players. So if some part of your game is broken, consider, can I fix that part of the game that's broken in a way, or should I remove that before considering what can I add to make that part of the game better. It'll save you a lot of time and energy in the end when you have to go back and remove stuff. All right. I said this before, I'm going to reiterate it here. It's a Sisyphean process, game design. It's a long haul, it is a lot of work. Like I said, 2 to 4 years for those board games, 2 to 4 years for those video games. You have to, you know that going in, think about it and prepare for it in a way that makes sense. Find a wide group of play testers. If you keep playing your game over and over and over with your friends and family, they learn what that game is. So, you know how I was saying you gotta pull stuff out? What happens, I see a lot with a lot of early game designers, is they keep playing with their friends and family. Their friends and family sort of like learn the game, and then they keep like learning the extra pieces they can put into it. And then that person takes that game to a new group of players who have not learned any of it, and they realize it takes them 45 minutes to teach the whole game, and it's super confusing. And the reason it happened is because they were playing with the same group of players every single time, and that same group of players basically became experts at what the game was, and by the time that they were playing with new players, it becomes a jumbled mess. I also suggest trying to take games to a finish line. Now, for me, my finish line is usually, I'd like to get this game published in as wide of an audience as possible. But it doesn't have to be that for you. If your game is, I want to make a game that's fun for my friends and family, and that's your finish line, good, you did it. Like, great. But like, you have to learn all the steps that get in there. When I do a game design, the game design is the first part, and then you have to do the art, you have to do layout, and you have to write a rule book. Writing a rule book is hard. It's an entirely different set of skills. You gotta build that set of skills. Then you take it to the publisher, and you have to learn how to do marketing. You have to go to conventions. You have to talk to people at conventions. It's a whole lot of stuff that comes into, I thought I was just going to make a game. Like I said, that's me. My finish line is I like getting games out there that are published. But if you want to make a project that you just put up on drive-through cards, or throw it up on itch, or something like that, find a finish line, make a goal, and get it to that goal. Also, don't be afraid to put stuff on the shelf. There's nothing wrong with saying, I'm stuck on this, or I'm not passionate about this anymore, I don't want to finish this, putting it aside and working on something else. Your brain will keep working on that. It'll still be thinking about that as it's sitting there on the side. But you can put something aside. And remember, all that work that you did working on that isn't wasted. You learned stuff about game design, you met play testers, you did networking, you did all this great work maybe the game isn't the thing that you need it to be, and you can put it aside and work on something else. I usually have 4 or 5 projects that I'm kicking around at a time. I know some people are crazy, they're like, yeah, I got 20, I'm working on 20 games. I'm like, I don't know how you do that. And I know some people, those people who are working on the magnum opus, they're working on one thing. They're working on that one big golden game. That's the problem. It's like if you're working on that one big golden game and it doesn't work, they can't put that on the shelf because they don't have anything else to jump to. 4 or 5 is generally what I work on. Find your rhythm, find what you like, find how much you want to play. So, I know I talk a lot. I know I talk pretty fast. I know I probably brought you down a little bit because you were excited about game design. Let's get back to being happy. Game design work is hard, but it is incredibly rewarding. It's a lot of fun. You are a game designer if you're doing any amount of game design. So don't let anyone take that away from you. There's like this thing in the tabletop game design community, they're like, oh, I'm not a game designer until I'm published. No, if you're working on a game, you're a game designer. You're doing the work. You may not have a published game, that's fine. Be sure that you're having fun. If you're not having fun working on your game, people can tell. It sort of shows in the work that you do. If you're doing something halfway, or you're just like, I don't know, it shows. Like, the games are projects of passion, and you can tell that when that passion bleeds through in the game that you're playing. The games that people love are the games that have passion, because you can feel the passion that you're creating through it. So make sure you still got that. And also remember, making anything is hard. Are you doing art? Are you doing music? Are you writing something? It's hard to make. It's easier to just sit back and be like, I'm going to watch TV or read a book or just turn my brain off and veg out in front of YouTube or something like that. Remember, to do something is harder than to not do something. And plus, you're putting yourself into whatever you're doing. Game design is an art just like music or poetry and stuff like that. And there's a little bit of you in there, and it's scary to put yourself out like that in public. Especially when you're going to a playtest group and you're telling them, hey, I really love this thing and I've been working on it for like a month, a year, and I need you to tell me what you don't like about it. That's a hard thing to do. And it takes practice realizing like the things that you make are not yourself. They are part of you is in there, but it's not you. So remember, it's going to be hard, but you're going to have fun. That's the thing. I did it in 25 minutes. Woo! Got it through there. Thank you. We're here demoing Grip with Madness. You can check us out on gripwithmadness.com. We're on Steam, and we have a Discord server if you want to hang out there and chat with us there. I'm on Twitter, both my personal account and our company account.